And what is this ridiculous sword you've brought me? Are you suggesting that I, Princess Ladi of Kush, need weapons to defend myself?
You curse me to live in darkness, princess who sees only her own reflection. But what good is light to one who uses it only for vanity?
What happens when a princess's cruelty awakens a curse so powerful it plunges her into eternal darkness? Today, we uncover the tale of Princess Ladi, a woman whose beauty was matched only by her arrogance, and whose words would ultimately seal her fate in ways she never imagined. But here's what will shock you. The man who claimed to save her was hiding a secret so dark, it makes her original curse seem like a blessing. Stay until the end, because this story has a twist that will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about salvation and revenge. In the heart of ancient Africa, where the great river bends towards the setting sun, stood the magnificent kingdom of Kush. Its golden walls gleamed under the scorching desert sun, and its marketplaces overflowed with ivory, gold, and precious stones, from lands beyond the great mountains. But the true jewel of this kingdom was not found in its treasure chambers. Princess Ladi possessed a beauty so striking that poets composed verses about her dark eyes, which sparkled like captured starlight. Her skin was smooth as polished mahogany, and when she moved through the palace gardens, even the flowers seemed to pale in comparison. Merchants traveled from distant lands just for a glimpse of her, and young men would wait for hours outside the palace walls, hoping to catch sight of the legendary princess. However, beauty without kindness is like a sword without a sheath, dangerous to all who come near. And Princess Ladi's tongue, it was sharper than any blade forged in the kingdom's finest smithies. Standing beside her always was Kande, her faithful servant whose family had served the royal household for 3 generations. Kande's grandfather had been the kingdom's most respected medicine man, though few remembered this now. To most, she was simply the quiet woman who braided the princess's hair and brought her morning meals.
But Kende saw what others missed. She watched as Princess Ladi's cruelty grew with each passing season, like a poisonous plant fed by too much praise and too little consequence. King Taiwo, Princess Ladi's father, was growing old. His beard, once black as a moonless night, now showed streaks of silver, and the weight of ruling had begun to bend his once proud shoulders. He looked upon his daughter with both love and worry, for he knew that a kingdom needed more than beauty to survive. It needed wisdom, compassion, and the ability to inspire loyalty. What the king didn't know was that his next decision would set in motion a chain of events that would nearly destroy everything he held dear. On a morning when the harmattan winds carried the scent of distant rains, King Taiwo made his announcement. The royal drums echoed across the kingdom as his voice boomed from the palace balcony. Let it be known throughout all the lands. Princess Ladi has reached the age where she shall choose a husband. I invite all worthy princes to come to Kush and seek her hand in marriage. The man who wins my daughter's heart shall not only gain a bride of unmatched beauty, but shall also inherit a place in our royal lineage. The announcement spread like wildfire across the continent. Within weeks, the roads leading to Kush were filled with royal processions. Princes arrived with caravans loaded with gifts, chests overflowing with gold, exotic animals, rare spices, and bolts of silk that shimmered like captured rainbows. The first to arrive was Prince Adebayo from the mountain kingdom of Yoruba. He was tall and broad-shouldered, with intricate tribal scars that marked him as a warrior of great honor. His delegation brought white horses whose manes were braided with silver threads, and his proposal gift was a crown carved from a single piece of jade. Princess Ladi received him in the great hall, seated upon her ivory throne like a goddess holding court. The prince approached with dignity, his eyes bright with hope and genuine admiration. "Princess Ladi," he said, his voice resonating through the chamber. "I have crossed treacherous mountain passes and faced dangerous beasts to stand before you. Your beauty surpasses every story told about you, and I will be honored to..." But Princess Ladi had already made up her mind. She studied him with the calculating gaze of a predator examining prey. Then her lips curved into a smile that held no warmth. "Prince Adebayo of the mountains," she said, her voice carrying clearly through the silent hall. "Tell me, do all men from your kingdom walk as if they're still climbing rocky cliffs? Your swagger reminds me of a mountain goat struggling on flat ground." Gasps echoed through the court. The prince's face flushed with embarrassment, but Princess Ladi wasn't finished. "And those scars on your face, how many wars did you lose to earn such decorations? Surely a victorious warrior wouldn't bear so many marks of defeat." The insult cut deep. Prince Adebayo's jaw tightened and his hands clenched at his sides. But he maintained his composure, bowing stiffly before turning to leave. As he reached the great doors, Princess Ladi's voice stopped him cold. "Wait, Prince Adebayo. I have a parting gift for you." What happened next would haunt the princess for years to come. Princess Ladi raised her hand, and the very air in the throne room seemed to thicken with an otherworldly energy. Her voice took on a strange resonant quality as she spoke words in an ancient dialect that sent shivers down the spines of everyone present. "May your feet never find sure footing again, just as your tongue failed to find the right words to impress me. May you stumble in all your future endeavors, just as you have stumbled before me today." The curse wasn't just words. It was real magic, powered by generations of royal bloodline and unleashed through pure malice. Prince Adebayo staggered as if struck by an invisible force. As he tried to walk away with dignity, he began to stumble with every step, his sure footing completely gone. The proud warrior who had never fallen in battle found himself unable to walk normally, forced to leave the kingdom in humiliation while struggling to maintain his balance. Kende, standing in the shadows beside the throne, felt a chill run down her spine. She had heard her grandfather speak of such magic, the dangerous power that came not from wisdom or healing, but from hatred and pride. This was not the way of their ancestors. But Princess Ladi was just getting started. Over the following weeks, prince after prince suffered the same fate. Each arrival brought new hope, and each departure left behind another cursed soul. Prince Kofi from the River Kingdoms came bearing gifts of rare pearls and offering to share his vast fishing territories. Princess Ladi mocked his soft hands, claiming they proved he was too weak to rule anything, let alone a kingdom. She cursed him with hands that would drop everything he tried to hold, making it impossible for him to grip a sword, a pen, or even a simple cup. Prince Jengo arrived from the desert lands with a caravan of 100 camels loaded with precious frankincense and myrrh. His skin was weathered by sun and sand, marking him as a true desert warrior. Princess Ladi laughed at his sun-darkened complexion, calling him the burnt prince who looks like charcoal forgotten in the fire. She cursed him with skin that would burn under even the gentlest sunlight, trapping him forever in the darkness of caves and covered chambers. Each cruel word was like poison poured into a well, contaminating everything it touched. And with each curse, Princess Ladi felt her power grow stronger, feeding her pride like sweet honey feeds a growing addiction. But there was one prince who would not simply accept humiliation and walk away. One prince whose rage burned hotter than the desert sun and whose patience was thinner than morning mist. Prince Kyle of the Iron Coast was known throughout the lands for two things: his quick temper and his absolute refusal to accept defeat. He ruled over a kingdom rich in iron mines and skilled metal workers, and his armies carried weapons forged from metal so strong that they could cut through stone. But more importantly, Prince Kyle came from a bloodline that had never forgotten the old ways, the ways of magic that most kingdoms had abandoned in favor of gold and politics. When Prince Kyle's procession arrived at the gates of Kush, the very ground seemed to vibrate with his presence. His armories wore black armor that gleamed like obsidian, and their weapons hummed with an energy that made the palace guards step back nervously. Prince Kyle himself was imposing, not the tallest of the suitors, but with an intensity that seemed to burn in his dark eyes like banked coals. His jaw was set in a permanent determination, and when he walked, it was with the controlled movement of a predator, constantly ready to strike. Unlike the other princes, he brought no traditional gifts of gold or jewels. Instead, his offering was a single item: a sword forged from meteoritic iron, its blade inscribed with symbols that seemed to shift and move when viewed from the corner of one's eye.
Princess Ladi should have recognized the warning signs: the sword, the symbols, the way the air itself seemed to thicken when Prince Kahel entered the throne room. But pride makes people blind to danger. Prince Kahel's audience with Princess Ladi began like all the others. He approached the ivory throne with measured steps, his eyes never leaving the princess's face. But unlike the others, there was no warmth in his gaze, only calculation and assessment. Princess Ladi of Kush, his voice was controlled, but carried an undertone of barely restrained power. I have come not to beg for your hand, but to offer you partnership. My kingdom's strength could make Kush undefeatable. Together, we could build an empire that spans from the great desert to the endless ocean. It was a proposal born of strategy rather than romance, and Princess Ladi sensed this immediately. Her pride flared at the suggestion that she needed anyone's strength to make her kingdom great. This would be the moment that changed everything. Prince Kahel of the Iron Coast, she began, her voice dripping with disdain. You speak of partnership, but I see only a man too proud to bow properly before royalty. Your kingdom may be rich in iron, but it seems poor in teaching manners. Prince Kahel's eyes narrowed, but he remained silent. Princess Ladi stood from her throne, beginning to pace around him like a lioness circling prey. And what is this ridiculous sword you've brought? Are you suggesting I need weapons to defend myself? How insulting. Perhaps in your crude kingdom, princesses must fight like common soldiers, but here in Kush, we value more refined qualities. The throne room was deadly silent. Even the guards seemed to hold their breath. Your armor is so dark and heavy. Are you trying to intimidate me? How laughable. You look like a shadow trying to cut sunlight. Do the women of your kingdom find such gloomy presentation attractive, or do they simply settle for whatever darkness approaches them? That was the line Princess Ladi should never have crossed. Prince Kahel's hands began to tremble, not with fear, but with rage so intense it was taking all his willpower to contain it. The meteoric sword at his side began to emit a barely audible humming sound. But Princess Ladi, drunk on her own power and the growing energy of her magical abilities, made her final devastating mistake. She gestured dramatically and spoke the words that would seal both their fates. I curse you, Prince Kahel, to live in the darkness you seem to love so much. May shadows be your only companions, and may you never again walk in the light of day without pain. The curse struck Prince Kahel like lightning. His skin immediately began to burn where the sunlight from the high windows touched it. He stumbled backward, his face contorting in agony as the magic took hold. But as he fell to one knee, something else happened, something Princess Ladi didn't expect. It started as a low chuckle, then grew into full booming laughter that echoed off the throne room's walls like thunder. As he laughed, the shadows in the room began to deepen and the temperature dropped noticeably.
"Princess Ladi of Kush," he said, rising to his feet despite the burning pain, "you have made a grave error. You see, I too come from a line that remembers the old magic, and unlike you, I learned not just how to curse, but how to curse back." What happened next will be spoken of in whispers for generations. Prince Kahel drew the meteoric sword, and the symbols along his blade burst into flames that cast no light, only deeper shadows. He pointed the weapon at Princess Ladi, and when he spoke, his voice seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. "You have cursed me to live in darkness, princess of vanity. But what good is light to one who uses it only to see her own reflection? What good is sound to one who uses it only to spread cruelty? I curse you with the darkness you claim to despise, and the silence that will finally stop your poisonous tongue." The counter curse hit Princess Ladi with the force of a falling star. The last thing she saw was Prince Kahel's burning eyes filled with righteous fury. Then the world went black. The last sound she heard was her own scream of shock and terror. Then silence consumed everything. Princess Ladi collapsed to the marble floor, her hands clutching at her face, her mouth moving in soundless screams. She could see nothing, not light, not shadow, not even the memory of sight. She could hear nothing, not voices, not footsteps, not even the beating of her own heart. Prince Kahel stood over her for a moment, watching as the reality of her situation sunk in. Then, without another word, he sheathed his sword and walked from the throne room, his form dissolving into shadows that seemed to follow him like a living cloak. The other suitors, those who had been waiting their turn for audiences, fled the kingdom immediately. Word spread quickly. The beautiful Princess Ladi had been cursed with blindness and deafness, and the prince responsible had disappeared like smoke on the wind. News of Princess Ladi's curse spread through the kingdom of Kush like a plague of sorrow. The marketplaces, once filled with laughter and haggling voices, became subdued. Children no longer played games pretending to be the beautiful princess. The very soul of the kingdom seemed diminished. King Taiwo aged a decade in the space of a single day. The proud monarch who had announced his daughter's betrothal with such joy now sat hunched on his throne staring at nothing, his heart breaking with each passing hour that brought no improvement to her daughter's condition. But it was Kande that suffered the most, for she alone truly understood the full scope of what had happened. Kande had been raised on her grandfather's stories of the old magic, the dangerous power that flowed through bloodlines like a river that could either nourish the land or flood it into destruction. She recognized the signs immediately. This wasn't a temporary spell that would fade with time. This was ancient magic, the kind that required ancient solutions. Princess Ladi's condition was devastating to witness. The woman who had once moved through the palace like a queen of the earth now stumbled through her chambers like a lost child. She would reach for objects that weren't there, call out names that no one could answer, and spend hours sitting motionless, trapped in a prison of darkness and silence that no physical key could unlock. And the worst part, Princess Ladi was beginning to understand exactly what she had lost. During her sighted days, she had never truly looked at the beauty around her, the way morning light painted the palace walls gold, how Candy's eyes sprinkled with genuine affection when she smiled, the vibrant colors of the market tapestries. Now, blind, she began to remember these images with a clarity that made their absence unbearable. She had never truly listened either to the music of the court musicians, to the laughter of children playing in the palace courtyards, to the gentle wisdom in her father's voice when he spoke of ruling with compassion. Now, death, she strained to remember these sounds, but they faded like dreams upon waking. 3 months passed with no improvement. King Taiwo consulted every healer, priest and wise woman in the kingdom. They came with herbs and potions, with prayers and rituals, with crystals and chanted incantations. Nothing worked. The curse was too strong, too deeply rooted in the magical exchange between Princess Ladi and Prince Kahel. It would take power equal to or greater than what had created it to undo the damage. That's when King Taiwo made the decision that would lead to an even greater horror. On a day when the Harmattan winds brought whispers of desperation from the farthest reaches of the kingdom, King Taiwo stood once again on his palace balcony, but this time his voice carried the weight of a father's love and a ruler's determination. Hear me, people of Kush and all the lands beyond. My daughter Princess Ladi suffers under a curse that has stolen her sight and hearing. To the person who can restore these gifts to her, I offer not just gold or jewels, but her hand in marriage and a place in our royal family. Whoever can heal my daughter shall become my heir, and their children shall rule this kingdom after me. The king didn't realize he had just issued an invitation to every charlatan, desperate adventurer, and dark practitioner within 1,000 miles. They came in droves, desert mystics with bones and rattles, claiming their ancient rituals could restore sight to the blind, traveling merchants, selling miracle potions brewed from rare herbs found only in distant jungles. Even other princes arrived hoping that their court magicians could succeed where all others had failed. Each failure brought deeper despair to the kingdom. Princess Ladi was subjected to ritual after ritual, some harmless but useless, others genuinely dangerous. She drank bitter concoctions that made her violently ill. She sat through ceremonies where strangers chanted over her while burning herbs that filled her lungs with acrid smoke. She endured the laying of hands by people who claimed divine connection but delivered only disappointment. And through it all, Kande watched with growing anxiety. Kande's grandfather had taught her to recognize different types of magic by their feel, their scent, their effect on the very air around them. Most of these healers possessed no real power at all. They were opportunists seeking royal reward, but some carried a darkness that made her skin crawl. She began to fear that a princess in desperation might accept help from someone whose cure would prove worse than the curse itself. Her fears were about to be proven terrifyingly correct.